The following video will display the biomechanics behind the ideal position for a cyclist to be in while cycling, in order to produce the most power and force during each pedal stroke. For filming purposes, I have used a wind trainer and a standard road bike, and we are looking at the riding pattern from a seated position. During cycling, the rider has 3 constant contact points with the bike: the handlebars, saddle, and the pedals. If we look at the pedal stroke as a circle, there are 2 phases which allows the rider to produce force, acceleration, and power. The downstroke, which begins at the top dead centre to the bottom dead centre, is the power phase. The upstroke is from the bottom dead centre to the top dead centre and is the recovery phase. The kinematics and kinetics of each pedal stroke are the key factors between success and failure for successful cycling, as they affect the magnitude of the forces produced by the muscles as well as the load applied to the joints. However, there are external forces such as wind, weight, limb lengths, acceleration, force, and velocity which need to be taken into consideration. During the first 90 degrees of the downward phase, the quadriceps and the gluteus maximus are eccentrically contracting. These are responsible for the power produced as the knee and hip extends and the ankle is in plantar flexion. During the 90 to 180 degree point, the main kinetic drive is produced by the gastrocnemius as it eccentrically contracts. This power output continues during the upstroke phase and results in the ankle returning to a plantar flex state. The tibialis anterior is active eccentrically from a crank angle of 145 degrees and remains to produce power output for the entire upstroke phase. This results in the ankle dorsiflexing as it reaches the bottom dead center of the pedal stroke. The biceps femoris is eccentrically active from when the pedal reaches the bottom dead center and continues to contract until the crank angle reaches 270 degrees. This eccentric contraction enables the knee joint to flex. The hip flex is the main driving force during the final stages of the pedal stroke and are eccentrically contracting whilst the crank angle is between 270 and 360 degrees, resulting in hip flexion. Kinematic and kinetics are also heavily reliant on joint angles. In cycling, the joint angles change dependent on the position of the crank and the bike setup. If the bicycle isn't set up correctly, riding technique is hampered and power and acceleration is decreased, as well as overuse injuries increasing. The first important angle to consider is the knee angle, which is determined by seat height whilst stationary with the pedal at the bottom dead centre. The knee angle should be between 27 and 37 degrees. An angle more than this will increase hip rocking, but during the pedal phases, the knee angle joint varies between 110 degrees whilst in flexion and 45 degrees when extended. Once the seat height is correct, the pelvic tilt angle in relation to the handlebars can be determined. The aim of decreasing the ankle in the pelvis aims to lengthen the gluteal and hamstring muscles to increase power output. However, this shortens the hip flexors. If the angle is too small, it can also reduce blood flow through the pelvis and into the legs. The minimum angle of the hip while stationary on the flexed leg should be 45 degrees. The angle on the extended leg should measure between 85 and 95 degrees. These measurements are variable to the individual's limb lengths. This means that whilst riding, the hip joint angle varies between 70 and 35 degrees in each pedal stroke. During correct biomechanical setup, the ankle should sit at 124 degrees whilst at the bottom dead centre in a plantar flex position. When the pedal returns to the top dead centre, the ankle should have an angle of 124 degrees. Further studies have found during a cycling phase, the ankle joint has only a slight change around 20 to 30 degrees. The other consideration is to ensure the knee over pedal spindle positioning is correct, to ensure the rider's mass is placed over the centre of the bike. The patella should be aligned directly above the pedal. If this is incorrect, the centre of gravity is altered, creating increased drag through either the front or the back of the bike. It is important to note, to reduce back pain and pressure through the palms, the angle between the hip, shoulder, and wrist should measure 90 degrees, whilst the elbow should have a slight 15-degree flex laterally in them for increased control. With so much to consider, it is easy to see why there are so many overuse injuries and performance issues in cycling. Some of the most common injuries are anterior sided knee injuries, including patellar tendonitis, which occurs in 25% of riders. Anterior knee injuries are generally caused by the seat height being too low, resulting in excessive anterior projection of the knee, also decreasing kinetic force. To fix this, you simply increase the seat height to better suit the height and limb lengths of the rider. Studies have also shown that lowering of the saddle height can have a decreased power output and moment gathering of the quadriceps and hamstrings at the knee joint. A variable that can't be changed is the conditions, including wind, which is the largest influence on performance. However, biomechanically, there are simple ways to improve performance during windy conditions. As mentioned previously, the elbow angle should be around 15 degrees, but in windy conditions, this angle should increase to improve how aerodynamic the rider is. By lowering the body closer to the handlebars and decreasing the drag, the cyclist will improve their speed, acceleration, and velocity during windy conditions.